What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nazi with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone. And we got another special edition of Washington Football Weekly. And we got it with Josh Kirby, a great podcaster in the podcast community, the sports community. And Josh, I'm so thankful that you came on. And first off, how are your holidays? And you can plug anything that you would like to as well in your intro.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, Nazi. The holidays were good, short, but got to see family. That's always great. It was great just to spend time with family, get some time off from work, and watch football as well. If you don't know me, I am Josh Kirby, the host of the Kirby on Sports podcast. As it says down below, you can check out all of my work at kirbyonsports.com. We've been doing this for 3 years strong and keep on grinding in 2022. That's what we're all here for.
Oh, for sure. But with that out of the way, let's get started with the Washington football team talk. So the first thing I want to ask you, what are your last thoughts on Washington's beatdown loss by Dallas last week? And as well as the scuffle between Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne.
It was, Washington just couldn't get anything together. Dallas looked like they were a complete football team. People were saying, yeah, Dallas, their offense is struggling. Their offense is back on track. It's going to be another big game against Arizona, but without DeAndre Hopkins for the Cardinals, one of Kyler Murray's best weapons. And if Dallas can continue to play as well as they have been, then it's going to be an issue for this Arizona Cardinals team, because if Dallas can do what they did when they played Washington again this week at 4:25 as we are recording, it's going to be a problem for Arizona. And I think Dallas has all the right pieces in place just in time for the playoffs. And what a better time, Nati, to get things started than in the playoffs, get things on a turn, rolling on a hot streak, whatever you want to call it. But the scuffle between Payne and Allen, obviously frustration, because the defense, they just aren't playing well. Washington, you see all their team ridden with COVID and injuries, and it goes to show in their defense, high expectations from last season into this season, and they sort of don't live up to the hype at all. And I just think it's just frustration boiling over from the past couple of games, and hopefully they've gotten over this so they can continue to play and finish off this season with pride, maybe resulting in a playoff berth, but most likely not.
Yeah, I agree. But with Daron Payne, there has been talk outside of the scuffle that Daron Payne could be included in a trade package for Washington, who obviously, or more likely, I should say, are going to look for a veteran quarterback in the offseason market. Do you believe those rumors to be true? And would you like to see Daron Payne as the guy in those trade packages that Washington will be flirting around?
I really haven't paid much attention. I wouldn't be surprised after the scuffle if Daron Payne wanted out. Maybe, because I've heard the quarterback class maybe isn't the best in the draft, but I'm no draft expert whatsoever. So that's one thing. But for me, if we're gonna trade out Payne, you're gonna want to pick up that quarterback, because I don't see an option where Washington does not find a quarterback this year. And whether that's a veteran through a trade or the draft, who knows? But it's just all going to depend, because we all know Daron Payne deleted all Washington affiliation off his social media. What does that mean? We don't know. But it's just gonna be a time will tell situation to see if Washington trades Daron Payne, and what Washington will want to get out of him. Because Daron Payne, he's a pretty good player, And for that D line, he could be worth something. So, I mean, I'd look into it. If I were Washington, I'd look into it, not necessarily pull the trigger and do it right away, but just evaluate your options and see what you can get out of a guy like Daron Payne if this trade were to happen.
Yep, and he's definitely worth a lot more than Ioannidis, who a lot of fans out there were potentially floating around last offseason when we were thinking about potentially getting a quarterback like a Matthew Stafford. But Hawk TV is in the chat. Happy New Year, fellas. Appreciate it, Hawk. And I do want to say, though, since you did talk about the veteran quarterbacks and potentially Payne being included in a trade package for a veteran quarterback, are there any one of these quarterbacks that you would like the most to be here in DC? And also, who do you predict will actually end up here, if any of them at all, come the 2022 season?
Well, I've seen, and I know he's a backup, but Marcus Mariota, he has had playing experience. A guy like Marcus Mariota, I'd take the call on him. He might be not so much money. He's been in some packages with the Raiders. I mean, that's a small sample size, but still, I feel like Marcus Mariota, he could be a good solution in Washington. Looking at Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett from the draft, I think most of everybody are favoring those two. Malik Willis from Liberty. I wouldn't be surprised if Washington tries to do something to bring him to DC. But I mean, the draft, it's up in the air. I don't really know much about it, Nati. I'm not an expert or in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, looking at the veterans, I think Marcus Mariota, and some people might think that that's odd, that's strange. He's been out of a starting role for quite some time, but you know, I feel like he could do some great in Washington. But yet again, it is Washington, and they have been known to screw up the quarterback position. So I could be completely wrong.
That is a very true point. So do you think Washington will potentially, if they're even looking at these guys, do you think they'll swing out on a guy like Aaron Rodgers or maybe a Russell Wilson, who reportedly is super frustrated in Seattle and might be on his way out? This might be his last couple of games up there in Seattle. Do you think Washington could potentially look into those guys and maybe even pick up one of those guys via trade?
If I were a player and I saw what was going on in Washington, I wouldn't want to go there. And I feel like that's what some players, although they aren't stating it publicly, it's like they want to stay away from Washington because of everything that's going on right now. And I don't blame them. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers is a logistical candidate. Russell Wilson, maybe. But I mean, definitely not Aaron Rodgers. I mean, who knows? And a big-time quarterback, I don't think there's a shot to get them to Washington because of their culture and what has been going on the past 3-5+ seasons. I mean, even going back to the RG3 era and beyond.
That's fair. Very good point. And also, we've heard talk this week about Deshaun Watson turning down Washington. So if Deshaun Watson, with all of his allegations,
I'm not mad about that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch Washington anymore if they picked up Deshaun Watson. I'm not sure why trade rumors for Deshaun Watson are still circling, even with pending legal cases against him. Because, I mean, yeah, let the legal system run its course, but if he's found guilty and you trade for a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, then you're out of whatever you traded out.
Fair point. Fair point. We got some more people in the chat. Patrick West, what's up, guys? Hail to the Washington football team. Hawk TV brings up an interesting name, Tyler Huntley, who will be starting this week for Baltimore. Do you think potentially Washington could pick him up? You know, he is a very young guy. I think he's only on a 1-year contract as well, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think Washington could potentially look at him for the 2022 season?
That would be a very financially safe option for Washington. I think it's a small sample size. I don't think we've seen him play enough. So it's up in the air for me. I've liked what he has done, but to me, he hasn't had that much game experience for me to make a reasonable decision, the good conscious decision on whether Huntley can get a Washington or not.
Okay.
Would be a good fit, for lack of a better terms.
Fair enough. We've also had talk this week, of course, with it being the start of 2022 and the name change pending, the second name change pending. Do you have any thoughts on or a favorite for what the new team name should be and prediction on what it will actually become?
It really doesn't matter to me at this point. I mean, they're going to change the name. I mean, to be honest, I've grown to like Washington football team. For them to change the name, it's just another way to make more money, more merchandise sales, so on and so forth. You'll probably go out and buy yourself a new hat once they change the name, Nati. But
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly don't really care what the new name's going to be because because I just like I'm still going to be a fan, whatever the name is called. I mean, I just can't jump the bandwagon or anything
Yeah.
like that, even though the years and years and years of bad gameplay, franchise, you name it. But I mean, we can guess what the name's going to be. I haven't really looked too much into it, but whatever the name's going to be, I'm fine with. I probably won't like it because it's just not good. It's something you won't be used to hearing because we're used to calling them the Redskins for who knows how long, then the Washington football team for 2 years. And for them to switch the name yet again, I mean, it's just something we're all going to have to get used to. So it's going to take some time. It's going to be an adjustment. And I think I'm going to be in that boat. Once Washington changes their name officially, it's going to be something weird that I won't like at first. Then I'm just going to grow into it.
Yeah. I mean, Red Wolves is still my number one choice. I don't know if it's a team. Yeah. Yeah. But I will say this. You mentioned how it's been tough times as a Washington football team, Redskins fan, even in the past. I put this out on Twitter, I think it was like a week ago, but I said pretty much for those, especially in our early 20s, early or really just 20s in general, being a fan of this franchise has been tougher than being a fan of any other franchise in the NFL when you account for not just off on the field lack of success, but also off the field drama. Do you agree with that statement? Or do you think, potentially being a Lions fan or a Jets fan would have been worse over these last 2 decades?
That's tough to say. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Lions. I mean, the thing that sets franchises that are struggling like the Lions and the Bears that sets them apart from the Washington football team is the Washington football team has the cultural off the field front office issues that they're trying to work to correct, which that's another topic for another day. But I mean, the Lions, yeah, they're not playing well. They're looking to build off of this year and try to do better next year. But I mean, have you heard anything about their front office? Anything like that? You get what I mean. But I mean, that's what sets these teams apart from Washington. 100%. You don't hear about anybody else. To what I know, anybody else's front office issues around the National Football League. All you hear is Washington.
Yep, I agree. Rap the District is in the chat. Great podcaster.
Yeah,
YouTube community group. Washington Legends, book it. I like the name for initially when I heard it on Twitter, but I'm still on the Red Wolves bandwagon. Like I mean, it's perfect. Like I laid out the reasons in a very good tweet that ended up popping off a little bit. I think it was in early December, if not late November. And I don't know. I'm still on the Red Wolves train, but do you think Legends potentially, Josh, could be a good fit here in DC?
Nah.
No. Okay. Okay. There you go. That's all you have to say.
So sorry, ref the district.
Yeah. Awesomeness Sports as well as in the chat. Next question I want to ask you, Josh. End of season recap for the Washington football team. Obviously, we have 2 games left. The team is 6-9 now, off of having a 4-game winning streak and now a 3-game losing streak to back end the season. Which player do you believe has been the greatest disappointment this season for Washington?
Curtis Samuel. He was Ron's pick because he used to play in Carolina, and I hate that Ron thinks he's a player's going to be a good fit in Washington because he was in Carolina with him. Curtis Samuel is injury prone. He's played only a handful of times for Washington. They need to cut bait with him now and just forget about the losses because, I mean, just seeing Curtis Samuel, he wasn't worth what Washington paid him. He's injury prone. A groin injury is hard to deal with, and I just don't think he'll be in Washington past this season. I think he's one of the biggest disappointments. People may say Dyami Brown, but Dyami Brown's a rookie. So you can't put much on Dyami Brown when this is only his first season in Washington, where he can develop a lot more in the offseason with the proper coaching, the proper training, and we could potentially see another elite wide receiver in for Washington if it's done the right way, because you look and you see Terry's pretty much the only big weapon in Washington, D.C. Yeah, Adam Humphries does a decent job. Seals Jones, John Bates. Logan Thomas was the biggest weapon, in my opinion, before he went out with that ACL tear. But yeah, I just recap it. Curtis Samuel, 100%.
You can't undersell J.D. McKissick as well when talking about the offensive weapons.
JD was good. He was good out of the backfield as well.
Yep. No, that's a great pick. I was gonna go with Curtis Samuel as well, but I guess just to offer another guy, this might be a hot take. I don't know why it would be, but Chase Young, before he got injured, he was underwhelming to say the least. The coach kept talking about how, he was not necessarily. He was doing a little bit too much on the field, and that's why he had a lot less sacks and not enough pressures, and wasn't really his rookie of the year self last year. And I'm looking forward to his potentially bounce back season next year. But I'm not going to sugarcoat and think that Chase Young, first half of the season where he only had like 1.5 sacks in 9 games, is what you're looking for at the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. So I'm going to go with Chase Young here, but I guess moving towards the positive side of things, which player do you believe has been the biggest surprise this season in a good way?
That would be, I think I'd have to say Ricky Seals-Jones, because I feel like he's done a pretty good job at the tight end position, filling in for Logan Thomas when he was hurt that one time, and then again when he tore his ACL. I feel like he knows how to work the field. He's made some pretty good catches, in my opinion. I really like what Ricky Seals-Jones has brought to the table for this Washington football team.
Okay. Fair pick. I'll probably go with Landon Collins. Just because a lot of us going into the regular season thought that he was going to be an easy cut after the season, right? When his cap hit went down, and we wouldn't have to recoup a lot of the losses from him. So I'm going with Landon Collins just because before he got injured, he was playing very well, was pretty much earning his money, which hadn't really been the case the last couple of years for him in DC. So I'm going with Landon Collins there. But the last question I want to ask you in this end of season recap before getting into the matchup is who do you think is the team's MVP this season?
Tressway.
Okay.
He's arguably the best player on this Washington football team. I can't believe that this is his first game that he's missing, which is incredible. They had to sign a punter, but trust Way. I mean, every single year he's putting in work, and he knows how to punt the football to pin defenders back in their own territory. You may think I'm dumb, everybody listening, but trust Way.
No,
No
Tress
doubt.
Way has he's slowly but surely been our MVP for a lot of these trying seasons. But I'm probably gonna go with Jonathan Allen. I don't know, Josh, if you know this, but I've been on the John Allen train like for a good 2 years now.
I like
I
him.
thought last year he was arguably our best defensive player, and obviously this year I think by far he's our best defensive player. 8.5 sacks. He's been an absolute force. All the PFF metrics, like, I mean, he's like top 5 in everything right now. So gotta go with Jonathan Allen, and he's also from the DMV, from Northern Virginia too. So, but like I promised, want to get into the Washington versus Philly matchup. Do you think Washington will be able to withstand the loss of Antonio Gibson for this game at least?
That's tough to say. I mean, without JD McKissick, it's going to be tough. They have Smallwood. They have Jared Patterson. How are they going to handle the workload there? Because if Scott Turner feels that the run game is not working, there's a chance that it's not going to go too well for this Washington football game in the run game, and he's going to put everything all on Taylor Heinicke.
Okay. Who's going to get more snaps in this one at quarterback, Taylor Heinicke or Kyle Allen? And who do you personally want playing more in this game?
It could go both ways. It depends on how Heinicke plays. And I think if Heinicke plays well, they're not going to pull the plug on him. But if he plays atrocious and it's not looking good, I think he's going to get the plug pulled and Kyle Allen comes in relief. So it could go either way. If it's a bad game for Heinicke, I think Kyle Allen takes most of the snaps in this game. But if not, I think Taylor can handle it just fine. But we do have to remember last time Washington played Philly, we had a COVID quarterback, Garrett Gilbert, from a practice squad in the NFL. So that's one thing to keep in mind. This game might be a little bit different now that Taylor Heinicke is back this week.
Okay. Harlem Cowboy in the chat. Sup, fellas? Can I get a... No, you cannot. Thank you for joining and for the comment, but
absolutely not.
Sorry.
Absolutely not.
I would get
the Dallas Cowboys are going to get ousted in the first round of the playoffs.
Let's just say I do not disagree with that statement. But
Des Bryant didn't make that catch.
Okay, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
They're still riled up about that years later.
Yeah, he didn't make that catch. I don't know what Cowboys fans are talking about. He made that catch, but
they're just Cowboys fans, so they always got to be salty. Fight for old DC. Apparently, bringing your own benches to opposing teams' stadiums is now a thing because the Eagles brought their own benches. I saw that. Jerry the Great.
I don't really care anymore. Do what you want. Yeah. Who cares? If they're benches, they're making a big deal over benches. Yeah, I mean the Cowboys did it once. Oh, man, such a big deal. The Cowboys brought their benches. Everybody's going to start doing it. It's just a trend that the Cowboys set, but everybody's probably going to do it just to make storyline headlines, stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. So we talk about the quarterbacks, talk about the running back, and obviously there's the receiver, right? Terry McLaurin, the guy who, I mean, he works so hard, but I feel like still does not get the credit that he deserves. Maybe not by our fans, but by the national media. With Terry, do you think he's finally going to get going in this one after some tough games, to say the least, for him? Or will Darius Slay lock him down again, or our quarterbacks won't be able to get him the ball in this one?
I think this could be a good game for Terry to bounce off, because I'll preface this because Miles Sanders is questionable. We remember last time he ran over the defense for the Washington football team. But if the Eagles can't rely on their run game, have to go to the offense, and they can't convert. It depends on how tired their defense is based on if they get the running game going. I know that might sound confusing, but just in my mind, if the Eagles defense can stay off the field for long periods of time, then yeah, there's a good chance Terry might get locked down. But I feel like it's 50-50. It could go either way in this matchup today.
Okay. Okay. How worried are you about the cornerback depth on this team with William Jackson the third being out? I also saw, if I'm not mistaken, on ESPN, Daryl Roberts as well will be out of this matchup. So, what are your thoughts on the cornerback depth?
Next man up. That's all you can do. Next man up, and just hope they play well. It's an opportunity for a guy who doesn't get that many snaps to get out on a stage on TV and try to do what they can do to help this defense. But that's the term that's been that I've been saying for most of the season for this Washington football team when they're injury ridden and COVID related is next man up. Plain and simple.
Do you think William Jackson III has been a disappointment this season with given his contract and some of the hype that he was getting in the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like William Jackson. I mean, yeah, it was a big signing. I was like, oh man, maybe he'll work out good for this Washington football team. But I mean, he towards the beginning of the season, he was just making outrageous penalties that could have been avoided in terms of PI and stuff like that. Always getting burned from what I saw. I mean, I mean, there's a lot of work that William Jackson needs to put in to become a better corner for this Washington football team, but I haven't been impressed.
Okay. Okay. Can Washington's defensive line generate enough pressure and limit Philly's explosive ground attack? Because even without Miles Sanders today, let's say he doesn't play, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, that offensive line is, I mean, it feels like every single week they're graded very high by PFF. Jalen Hurts is there as well as a great runner and passer. Do you think Washington will be able, their defensive line specifically, will be able to both generate the pressure and also limit the running game?
We have to realize here that the Montez Sweat is not playing in this football game, so
Great point.
that's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. I mean, this Eagles O-line is pretty strong, and without Sweat, I'm not sure. I feel like it could go either way, but I feel like if Boston Scott and the others running back, Jordan Howard, excuse me. I almost said Miles Sanders, but I was like, right. But
it's all good.
If they get them going early enough and often enough, I feel like they can put a real hurt on this defensive line for the Washington football team. So it's going to come down to how the defensive line steps up early for this Washington football team in terms of getting to the quarterback and getting to the running back early enough to disrupt the running game.
Okay. Okay. And I will say rest in peace to Montez Sweat's brother, who died out there in Richmond, I believe, earlier this week. So I believe that's why he's missing the game. It's for personal reasons. So hope his family is doing all right. And yeah, prayers out to him. The next question, last question in regards to the matchup that I want to ask you is, who do you think will win this matchup? And do you have a final score prediction?
I think Washington will edge in this matchup. Based on what I've seen, I was on sidelines Washington earlier. I forget my prediction there, but I feel like now Washington could edge this game. But either way, I think this goes within 3 points, either to Washington or Philly. I feel like as of right now, Washington might be able to edge Philly based off what I've heard from Miles Sanders, but 3 points either side. That's what I think.
Okay. Okay. I will admit, I try to be a little bit more optimistic about this team before this Cowboys beatdown that we had last week. I can't, bro. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. I think Philly's gonna win this matchup. If Heineke gets more than a half of action in this one, I think it's gonna be a 31-17, 2-touchdown worthy win for Philly. And if Kyle Allen gets a half or more, I think it's gonna be 27-20 Philly. So either way, I think Philly's gonna win, but. I like our chances more with Kyle Allen. Just sad to say, but I like our chances more with Kyle Allen playing for us. As promised, off camera, I do want to ask you a couple more questions with regards to the NFL. First off, who are your sleeper teams in the NFL playoffs this year in the AFC and NFC?
Well, start off with a loaded question there. If you would have asked me this probably 5 weeks sooner, I would say the Arizona Cardinals. But the Cardinals, without DeAndre Hopkins, one of their biggest weapons, as I stated earlier, I wouldn't be. I think they're coming off the track slowly. I still feel like they'll get into the playoffs, but still, removing one of Kyler's biggest weapons, that's tough. Looking on the AFC is pretty much wide open as of right now. I mean, you've seen this playoff picture the entire season. You see the amount of teams that are still in the hunt. It's crazy to see. And only a few teams have gotten into the playoffs. Not the whole playoff picture isn't set. A lot of pieces can be moving within the last 2 weeks of this NFL football season. It's going to be crazy to see. But, man, I mean, if I were to just say one off the top of my head, I would say, man, that is tough. I think the Patriots, because the Patriots, for one, they started off rough, but they're getting back into the groove of things. And with Mac Jones looking pretty good and this Bill Belichick-led team, it looks like they might go back into the playoffs. And a lot of people were questioning, how's this Patriots team going to look without Tom Brady? Can Bill Belichick get the job done? And it seems like they're on a roll into the playoffs. So I'd have to say the Patriots for the AFC.
Okay. And do you have one for the NFC, or is it again pretty much?
Jeez, I mean, the NFC.
Yeah,
that's tough. That's really tough.
Maybe the team that we're playing today could potentially be a sleeper.
That could be one. I forgot to mention another one for the AFC, the Miami Dolphins.
Yep. Start off 1-7, now they're 8-7.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I just hope because I'm still in the fantasy playoffs, in my fantasy championship game this week. I just hope the Colts just ride behind Jonathan Taylor, give him all the carries, and hopefully that carries you to a fantasy championship. But I know that's for personal.
I don't think the Colts are a sleeper though. They're a pretty good team.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Although I guess you could say they're not sleepers as well, but the Titans, once they get Derrick Henry back, should also be, I would say, potentially, could make a run in the playoffs. And Julio Jones as well, although he is frequently injured. But when they get both of them back, they could be in the mix as well. Okay, next question I want to ask you. Who do you have in the Super Bowl this year and winning it all?
I picked them in the beginning of the season, and I'm going to stay with this pick. I think the Bills can do it.
Okay. Who do you have them matching up against in the NFC?
Matching up, I will say the Packers.
Okay. I also have the Packers in the Super Bowl, and my preseason prediction was Packers Chiefs. I was worried about the Chiefs at the beginning when they started off 3-4, but they've been going on a sort of hot streak here. So I still have it being Packers Chiefs, and I think the Packers are going to win it in that last dance type of season for Aaron Rodgers. But the last question I want to ask you, or second to last question, is with regards to college football. Obviously, we just had the 2 playoff games yesterday. Who do you have winning the national championship on January 10th? The Alabama Crimson Tide or Georgia Bulldogs?
I'm tired of seeing Alabama. Let's go Georgia.
See, you might not know this, but you're talking to a Bama fan right now. So roll
Well,
Tide.
yeah,
That's all I gotta
now
say.
I'm tired of seeing Bama. The playoff system is screwed. They're a bunch of old
Yeah.
suits who, like Alabama, even with 1 or 2 losses, they still get the number 1 seed, which is ridiculous in my mind. And Alabama, they're always in the national championship, and there's got to be change. There's got to be a playoff expansion. There's got to be something, because just a random board picking 4 teams, with Alabama always getting guaranteed the number 1 overall, the number 1 seed in that 4-team playoff. It's
Mm,
ridiculous. Ever since they changed it, I was like, why are they doing this? And I mean, it's crazy to see. I jumped for joy when Clemson beat Alabama. I was mad when Tua came in and threw that bomb, but I'm tired of seeing Alabama. And I mean, and I'm not even an excuse me, I'm not even an
mm,
SEC fan, just a Hokies fan. Nothing to brag
yeah.
about there, but I'm just tired, and that's why I don't really watch college football much anymore,
Mm,
because you see Alabama, and it's always Alabama, Alabama, Alabama winning 12-0, 11-0, 11-1, stuff like that. And they're always the number 1 seed. And every time I watch the national championship, Alabama usually comes away with another title.
mm. I mean, don't get me wrong. I support my DMB college football teams first and foremost. Virginia Tech. That's probably my number 1. Although they just got a butt whooping by University of Maryland a couple of days ago. But no, I mean, I've been a Bama fan since the Mark Ingram, Greg McElroy days, and although I do get your point, they do win all the time. I mean, at the end of the day, if you do expand the playoffs, you're just gonna have more Alabama wins, in my opinion. It's just like you're pushing the inevitable that's gonna happen,
We'll
in
get
my
more
opinion. If you
teams in that should be in, because there are a lot of teams that should be in that are left on the outside, which is
That's
dumb.
fair. That's fair. That's fair. And yeah, I get that point as well. But I do want to ask you this final question, and it's with regards to this Washington football team. It's a very broad question, but is there any hope for this franchise? Will this franchise really ever get right back to potentially? I'm not going to say the glory days, but just being a consistent contender in the NFC East, and will they steer away from the offseason, off the field, I should say, drama? Like, will this team ever get right? Is what I'm asking, especially under the Ron Rivera regime. Will it take another coach to come in here and fix things, or do you still believe in Rivera to really transform this organization?
Once the news breaks that there will be a new owner in Washington, then you can ask me that question, because nothing will change without a new owner.
Mm. And there's that. Josh, thank you so much, bro, for joining the Washington Football Weekly stream. It's been a great one. Again, great podcaster. I did make sure to include a link to your Twitter page, I believe, in the description. And if you need me to send any more links, just let me know. But thank you, bro, so much. Thank you to everybody in the chat that joined today. We got Hawk TV, we got Rep the District, Awesomeness Sports, Fight for Old DC, Harlem Cowboy. Although you are a Cowboys fan, thank you for joining. And with that, have a great Washington versus Philly matchup. Hopefully it's a great one. It's not a blowout like last week, but that's it for this one, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to this channel. Also, go follow our Twitter page at DMV Sports Zone and our Instagram page, all lowercase DMV Sports Zone. Peace.